Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation. It is another Wednesday episode, and today we will go through what might be the most chaotic college football championship weekend ever. We'll tell you why Miles is excited about what could happen with IU, and we'll put a bow on the regular season. That was college football.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves. Chaos is about to ensue.
And this is Sports Idiot Nation.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. Welcome back, sinners. This is Season 2 of Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation. Today is Wednesday. Reminder, Sports Idiot Nation comes to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, of course, it's that time again. I am Adam Merino, joined by Miles behind enemy lines. Today, we are diving a little bit deeper into this college football legit chaos. I mean, it's pretty fun, so we wanted to get into it a little bit more, figure out how we got here, where we're going, what's going to happen when all is said and done. So, Miles, I want to start with the most fun threesome, I think, is Notre Dame, Texas, and Miami. And those are huge fan bases who have a lot to say. Where are we at?
Well, I think even after Miami's big win over Pitt, that the committee is showing that they don't believe their body of work equates to what Notre Dame did. Again, our opinions do not matter. All that matters is what the committee does, and the committee really does nothing more than sit back, let the computers talk, and spew out whatever the hell they have. And so we'll see, obviously, if some things shake out, and we'll get into these conference championship games and what chaos they could create, because there are some doozies that no one's talking about. Only us idiots will get into that could really, really screw the committee. But Notre Dame, obviously, is the front runner, with Miami at second, because of overall their body of work and obviously this 10-game winning streak to end the year. USC provided that good win. Navy, decent win. At Pitt, that was kind of a wash because Miami did the exact same thing this last week. I go back and forth on this because the head-to-head should matter so much. And I think to some degree it does, but the fact is, you still have to look at all 12 games. And at the end of the day, if you want to be in the playoff, what's the reason, Adam, to get into the playoff? Well, it's to win a national championship. National champions don't lose to SMU, do they? I don't think they do. There are some national champions that nowadays they have some bad laws. I think of Ohio State about a decade ago, lost to Virginia Tech week 1, and then rattles off and wins a national title. Reality is you can't make the argument, well, it's the Notre Dame factor. Well, if you're called Miami or Texas, people can say that about you and have said that about you in the past, and will say it again about you in the future. I think Notre Dame, of those three right now, is the best football team. All this talk about Texas, they have the best one in the country, that is bullcrap, because one, you did it at home. I think Texas A&M, the opponent you beat, has a better win than you at Notre Dame, and then also Alabama and Indiana, both with road wins over top 5 teams, were better wins as well. So I think Notre Dame, when you look at the full body of work, and the eye test, which is in some sense nonsense, because that's just all opinionated, not results on the field that should matter. I think based off what the committee's saying, there is some sense to it. Whether you agree with it or not, that's fine. I don't necessarily agree with it myself, but I comprehend at least where their mindset is. Now, when it comes to Texas, get the hell out of here. We talked about this Monday, and my mindset on this still has not changed. Again, you play 8 conference games, changes next year, as we already said. You basically picked up your 9th conference game by playing at Ohio State, which was a choice. And I think that you should be rewarded for that in some sense, but I think they are. The fact that they're in the conversation at all is because you're rewarded for it. If you play a cupcake and you end 10-2, you're still in the exact same spot because you didn't help yourself by losing to a bad Florida team and getting waxed by Georgia, and then playing your Mississippi States and head coachless Kentucky to overtime ball games. And I think that's what weighed more than the actual 1, 2, and 3 losses themselves. It's not about the number. It's about who you lost to and the fashion you lost in, and also those teams that you should have been taking care of business with, and then you didn't. Game control matters, and it is absolutely a factor in, well, I said committee, but the computer's minds as well. Game control is a factor, comes in the FPI ranking, and for that, Texas, you're all the way out.
What do you think about? So let's put a bow on for 2025 Arch Manning, because man, we were, I think of how we are right now in the NFL with Caleb Williams. I feel like we're a little topsy-turvy because we're on the up and up with Caleb Williams. Are we that way with Arch? Do you see it the same way?
I think he's headed in the right direction. I really like, actually, in the game where they got beat out by 25 against Georgia. If you go back and watch that film, especially from the first half when it was competitive, I really liked what he was doing. You can't catch the ball. So if he had better
Okay,
receivers, if you
Giselle,
give
how
him,
many times have we
if you
said
put him,
that?
yeah, right, exactly what came to mind. Yeah, he can't catch the ball too, and got her ass in so much trouble, and then divorced. Not for that moment, but you get my point. Arch Manning he's still a five-star quarterback, and he absolutely deserves to be ranked that way. He has the size, the arm strength, the football IQ. Now, the mental stability for it, I think he needs that extra year. And the one QB I like to compare him to right now, it's not the most fair comparison because I don't think Arch Manning is a head case. It's not about that. But in terms of untapped potential that showed high-level prospects for the next level is really Ryan Leaf right now, which that scares the crap out of anyone. But
Well, yeah,
but
you
the
don't want
reason
to.
for it, but the reason for that is really the tangibles of it. Seeing his size and arm strength and what he can do when he's on, that's the quarterback that I actually see. Now, all Ryan Leaf had to do is not be an asshole, and he would have been a successful quarterback in the NFL. I completely believe that. So if Arch Manning is everything Ryan Leaf was, but has his head screwed on, he's going to be just fine when it comes to playing on Sundays and Monday nights. I think one more year at Texas, we'll see him take that next step forward. And then I think he's a bona fide, not just top 10, but a serious contender to be the first overall pick, where we thought he was going to be this year. A lot of it's not very fair. Again, it was his first time being the true starter. He has more pressure on him than any quarterback in recent
He's
memory.
handled it well. There's been no stories.
Not perfect.
I'll say this, like
Off
in the
field.
way that, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in the way of, you look at one thing that will go in the books when it's all said and done for LeBron James. I think of this, that he overall, there's been no off the court, like women or the gambling, or like he opened a school. There was nothing with having the limelight so brightly shined, right?
Well,
I
that's funny.
think
You mentioned the one controversy for LeBron is the school, seeing how horribly it's failed. That is the one stain on his. Whatever, we can get into that another time. But Arch Manning, his only thing was acting like a jackass after scoring a touchdown late against the worst team in Division I football, that being Sam Houston. That was the one moment where
come
you're
on,
playing
you're
like
fired
shit,
up.
and
You're fired
you
up.
get
I don't even mind
you
that.
get
I don't
over it.
mind that. Yeah, I don't mind that in the same
No,
way. But
no DUIs or running from cops like Baker Mayfield or anything like that. Certainly no Johnny Manziel.
Well, that's a different level. No one is Johnny Manziel.
He's an
So yeah.
icon.
Let's put a bow on Joey and Nico, the UCLA and Tennessee. Let's do that a little bit. What was the shakeout there? Do you think?
Good for no one. Absolutely no one.
It's
I think if
weird.
Nico stays in Tennessee, he does fine. I really think Nico, because he showed his flashes. The middle of the year, after
Yeah.
you finally let your dumbass head coach, Deshaun Foster had no business being
Oh
a
my
college
God.
head
We've talked
football
about
coach.
that from his original, many times I've said this, from his original press conference, dude. It
Yeah.
was,
So, well, we're going to go out there and do what we can. It's that that deserves like a breakdown, like on cheap seats, them talking about the word for word, like 90-second presser that he had to open the Big Ten. I was like, UCLA in trouble for a while. So
yeah, dude.
Nico has that within him. He just needs the right situation. I do not want him in Indiana whatsoever, and I've said this before, but if he goes into a situation like Indiana, he'll ball out because he has the right staff around him. He just has all that untapped potential. Again, pressure for being who he is, and then with the NIL and the influences, I'll just leave it at that. The influences he has on him, it was a disaster for him this year. He wasn't great at Tennessee, but again, very young, first time taking over the team that was truly his full time after Hendon Hooker. And now he had the opportunity, if he stays in Tennessee, I think Tennessee has a much more successful season. I think Tennessee wins 10 games and is much more in the playoff hunt. Whether they make it or not is one thing. But I think Nico would have been okay on Rocky Top still. Not meant to be, because again, like the whole Lane Kiffin situation, he's piece of candy. You get all this talk behind you. You're the hot commodity, whether it's quarterback or coach. And then the next best thing, grass is greener on the other side. Well, grass is greener on the other side. And it ain't always panning out to what it needs to be. And Nico's going to be on his third team next season.
Yeah, just a debacle from the beginning. We knew it was going to be that way, and it's just silly, really, to kind of see how it shook out. But more so on the Tennessee side, I thought, oh gosh, this is going to make us look terrible. Tennessee's about to win the Natty, or not literally the Natty, but like I thought they would
Contender.
even. I
They'd
thought
be in
they
the
were
top half
even be
of
better.
the SEC.
Right. I mean, SEC is
Do
still
what
the
Vanderbilt
SEC.
did. Yeah.
So there was a scenario. I want to get into this now. There was a scenario that you were talking about before the show that just could flip college football on its head. What is that?
Yeah, so we'll start with this one because there's really three scenarios that I want to get into, but I will start with the most chaotic one, and we'll go from there. One that no one is talking about. Why? Because, well, it's the group of six, and group of seven now, with obviously Duke trying to cause the greatest chaos since Franz Ferdinand in 1914 that threw us into World War I. This might be World War I of college football playoff. If Duke, and this is where it all starts, if Duke is to win, this could get really, really messy, really, really fast.
Let's break that down. Why is Duke here?
Well, that's a great question because no one really knows. The whole metric thing of we had like a 6-way tiebreaker here with teams that have 2 losses, and the ACC doesn't have written into the bylaws that the commissioner can step in and say, okay, we're just going to put Miami in, which at this point, just go ahead and do it just to save your ass.
Even
To
do
at
it
least
today. Do it today, this morning.
Just to give Miami the chance, and if they lose, so be it. Miami didn't deserve it then, and then Virginia at least is then in. Because if Virginia wins, then all of everything I'm about to talk about will not matter, because then Virginia would be in, and then the AAC winner, Tulane or North Texas, will be the other team. All hunky-dory, the committee gets off mostly scot-free, depending on what happens in 2 other games, which we'll touch on here in a little bit. But a big fat BUT. But if Duke is to win, now the ACC is probably out. But there is even a scenario where Duke might be in the conversation to get in the playoff. And here's how that goes. So Duke wins. Then you have the AAC champion. The winner of that game is going to get in. regardless of what happens in the ACC game. Either North Texas or Tulane wins, will be the 11 or 12 seed, depending on what happens in the ACC game. Fine. Give them a slot. Duke wins, there's one left. No problem. JMU, they're good enough, right at that top 25 mark. They'll get in. But wait a minute, they still got a game to play. There's no guarantee that JMU wins. Everyone thinks they're going to win. They play Troy, who's known to play people well, took Clemson, albeit not a great Clemson team, but it's still Clemson on the road. Took them right to the wire, had them beat for a while. If Troy wins that game, ladies and gentlemen, this becomes wild because now JMU is suddenly out. It ain't going to be Troy in. Suddenly you got to go to the Mountain West, right? That's the next one up. Well, who are you going to pull from there? UNLV now has 2 losses. Lost to New Mexico. Damn near lost to Idaho State to start the year. UNLV is no guarantee to win that game. What's the game they lost? Boise State. Boise State's 8-4, folks. If Boise State wins that game, UNLV's now out. Okay? JMU's out. Who the hell is going to the playoff then if Boise, Troy, and Duke all win? Again, that's a tough parlay to pull off, but it's far from impossible and borderline likely because Duke very much can beat Virginia. Troy has to pull an upset, but plausible. And Boise State, I think, wins over UNLV anyway. You might have to circle back and suddenly 8-5 Duke might have to come into the conversation to get in. Because beyond that, you're not going to put Kennesaw State probably as your Conference USA champion. They're not going. Where else do you go? So no one's really talking about it beyond, oh, hey, Duke might win and hey, JMU might make it. Well, wait a minute. They got to win too. There is an absolute scenario where the Dukies could have an argument to get in. Again, long shot, that's fine, but far from impossible.
I'm gonna need a minute. Like
a cigarette. Give him a cigarette.
What am I trying to ask here? Like, if that goes down, what are all of the? I mean, I'm just thinking of some of my favorites are Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd. Like, what? And then what I like is that they bring on people like Dan Patrick or Colin will interview Joel Klatt, right? Or Kirk Herbstreit or someone who just, who just eat, drinks, sleeps college football. Someone will have an aneurysm and won't be able to make the show. Like, oh, Kirk Herbstreit died today. Aneurysm.
All they have to do is check in with Sports Idiot Nation. I just broke it down pretty straight and clear for you. So if this were to happen, you better know this is coming ashore. And Sports Idiot Nation was the first to bring it to your attention. We're here for you, idiots. First announcement. Chaos.
Okay. Yeah. Where do we go from here? Maybe the SEC breakdown.
So that's probably the least chaotic of the ones that cause chaos of the 3. That one's probably causing the least. So Georgia wins straightforward. 3-loss Bama's still getting in. Sorry, Texas, you're not going to lead Bama. Sorry, Miami, you're not going to lead Bama either. And in the case where the committee rethinks this and, hey, we're putting Miami over Notre Dame, well, in that case, cool, but sorry, Notre Dame, you're not leaving. But Bama's getting in the playoff. Bama has clinched a spot in the playoff. They lose by 490. You're not going to punish Bama for being in the SEC title game. Leaving out the SEC runner-up is just insane. So that's not going to happen. Regardless, a 3-loss team would get in then. But if Bama does win, and now Georgia's 2-loss team, Georgia falls back a bit. Now you start to have that debate. Who gets that last bye? Does Bama at 2 losses leap everyone, including Ole Miss, who wasn't there and doesn't have a head coach? Well, they have a head coach, but yeah, he's still your defensive coordinator. Do they leap Oregon? Or does Oregon go up and get that bye? And then that really throws off the dichotomy of the makeup of the actual playoff and who gets what path. And then even like touching on the Big Ten championship, which I talked about Monday, it's like, shoot, if suddenly you have these teams jumping up to 4 and 5 that were going to be a little bit lower before, again, the number one team might get punished for being number one. It almost might be better to lose that Big Ten championship game. Again, too much has to play out. You want to go ahead and win your game anyway to make sure you get that top seed, make sure you get the quarterfinal bowl game where you want it to be. But in any case, that could get a little hairy there. Again, Georgia and Bama are all the way in the playoff. There's no debating that. But where do they end up seated if Bama is to win again over Georgia? Again, Georgia's only loss this year was at home to Bama. Whether or not, I mean, it doesn't really matter who we pick to win it. Who's going to win is going to win it. But it gets a little interesting just on seeding if Bama is to win the SEC championship.
That still is a lot there when you talk about should this team leapfrog that team, what that looks like. It's going to be really, really interesting. Where else is your attention then on all this? I mean, it's all over the place.
So I think the most plausible one of this, now Bama, of course, beating Georgia is very plausible, but it doesn't totally screw things up. The one that's most likely to completely screw things up is your Big 12 championship. Open the day if BYU wins. Surprise, surprise, hello, we got a bid stealer now. Texas Tech is in the playoff. They're all the way in. Again, you're not going to punish someone for losing their conference championship game. You can't do it, or else you completely F up college football, and then people will just bow out. They'll opt out of conference championship games. You can't do that.
Right. They're not. I get that.
So, Texas Tech, as it sits right now with a win, they're in line to get a bye. That's big, obviously, especially for a Big 12 champion. Get that extra week, get that automatic. Big time, the former New Year's Six Bowl now is becoming your quarterfinal games, more or less, and then semifinals too. But if BYU wins, that threesome suddenly becomes a foursome. And it became former opponents. So you had the Notre Dame, Miami, and then you also had Texas, Oklahoma. And Texas won that game. But, of course, Texas team out, which is a little bit simpler than the Miami Notre Dame argument. But then it becomes, hey, is it Notre Dame or is it Oklahoma? Now, wait, does Texas get back in the conversation because they are comparable to Oklahoma? But wait a minute, Miami as well, because BYU and Texas Tech would both be in the playoff. No question about it. How far does BYU ascend? How far does Texas Tech drop? That also screws things up again with that season, especially if Bama wins too. If Bama and BYU both win, the committee's got a mess on their hands. If Duke and BYU and Bama all win, again, a lot of things got to happen for all that to happen. But there is definitely still a scenario where chaos does ensue, where there is a bid stealer, where there's a mess with that fourth and fifth conference champion, who's getting in, who's getting left out, including the ACC if Duke wins. This last weekend, things seemed pretty straightforward. Again, the only real game of note was Texas knocking off Texas A&M. Again, Texas A&M easily in. They fall out of the SEC championship and therefore pretty much fall out of getting a bye. Maybe work their way back if both Georgia and Texas Tech were to lose this weekend. Again, that's going to be a hotter debate come this week, whereas this last week committee, pretty straightforward. Again, the debate is what we talked about to start, is that last spot between Notre Dame, Texas, and Miami. But please, even if it means an Indiana loss, because we're still getting that first round bye, well, at least should.
Yeah.
I would love to see this chaos and the committee actually have to put some work in, because to this point, it doesn't seem like the committee's doing a whole hell of a lot right now.
So let's get you out of here on this. We talk about IU. So IU, do you see a scenario where what's the worst that can happen, assuming you lose to Ohio State?
The worst thing that happens, that we fall to the 4 seed, that Georgia win and Texas Tech win, and Texas Tech looks impressive enough that we fall to 4th. We're still going to get a bye. We're going to get a bye. Fantastic. At the beginning of the year, you say, hey, you're the 4 seed, you get a bye. Holy crap, I was just happy you let me know we're in the playoff, let alone get a bye. Huge step forward from last year. If we're 4 and then Oregon ends up at 5, because I touched on this Monday, Oregon is the one team that not many people are talking about, Oregon absolutely can win the national championship. They are very, very good. They're getting healthier now. That loss to Indiana, I think, put a fire under their ass. Oregon is a team I
Fair.
do not want to face. I think I'm very glad that Indiana gets Ohio State this weekend. I think the worst thing that could have happened, again, we could have played Oregon, whatever. Again, the game isn't the end of the world for us. Playing Michigan, I don't think helps Indiana no matter what. Even beating them and getting the 1 seed, whatever. Losing to Michigan, that would have been really bad. But seeing Ohio State and get an opportunity to show where we're at, even if that means Ohio State wins by a couple scores and they think they own us, well, guess what? Last year you played Oregon, Ohio State, I'm talking. You play Oregon, you lose on the road, you come back and you beat them by 3 touchdowns completely, and destroyed them. So I'm not too worried about the outcome of this Big Ten championship game. But if it gets so bad and Texas Tech is that impressive and Georgia is that impressive that they both leapfrog us and we fall to 4, and anyone besides Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, even Oklahoma, they don't concern me. Oregon, especially coming off a game in Autzen where they would have won the week before, and they've kind of got that momentum rolling again after a couple weeks off. I do not want to play Oregon. Don't care where it's at. Probably still would be the Orange Bowl. I think if Indiana ends up 1, 2, 3, or 4 with the other teams in the mix, I think Indiana ends up in the Orange Bowl no matter what, which is great. Our quarterback is from Miami. That's where you want to play. It's the Eastern time zone. That's the only game in the group of 4 quarterfinal pod that would be an Eastern time zone game where IU plays at home in the Eastern time zone. So you want that for a little stability there, and there's going to be plenty of alumni that will make that trip down to Miami or are already in that area of the country. So again, seeding itself doesn't matter. The potential matchup matters immensely.
What matters immensely is that you follow us wherever you get your social media. Remember, across the Cineverse, you can find everything from Turtles Idiot Nation to Wrestling Idiot Nation.
Turtle.
Terrible. All of the nations.
Today.
New episodes of Sports Idiot Nation come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which means we will see you Friday. Thank you for watching this episode of Sports Idiot Nation. Remember, we are on all social media and on YouTube, and the podcast can be found on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Remember, new episodes are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And remember, because you watch Sports Idiot Nation,
you would be the smartest idiot in the whole world.